Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. You're about to watch a replay of our Wednesday night Twitch stream, the $1 Million Mission Week 5, where I took a look at my previous week's 150 NFL DFS lineups from FanDuel and DraftKings. This past weekend, I took home just over $10,000 in profit. So we took a look at my best lineup. We talked about my lineups in general, and then how to build high upside NFL DFS lineups the right way for both FanDuel and DraftKings. We took your questions live and went in depth on a couple of our answers. Normally we do this stream every Tuesday night, but we had to do it Wednesday this week because of the Bills game on Tuesday. But go follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Occupy Fantasy. That way you can catch these streams live, ask questions, and get our in-depth responses as we're streaming. If you have any extra questions, though, you can always comment below on this video, and we'll take the time to answer them for you. Go ahead and click subscribe here on YouTube so you get all of our videos as soon as they're released. If you appreciate this video, give us a thumbs up. I think you will. Lots of high-level discussion that you can use for any NFL DFS slate. So without further ado, enjoy the video.
What is going on, everybody? It is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com at OccupyFantasy on Twitter. $1 Million Mission Week 5, man. He finally broke the streak. What's going on, Brian? How's your day or night going?
What's up, Moose? I'm doing good. Again, broke the streak. Got into the green for the season for NFL Classic. So, yeah, good times. And got some big tickets along the way.
Definitely. What's up, Ken? What's up, T Nasty? Ken and T Nasty subscribed for a 7-month and 5-month respectively. Awesome. Thank you on that. That's awesome. Let's see. All right, we got the tweet notification going out. The StreamCord Discord bot is tripping. Did not post one to thing. So let me go ahead and just post that in the Discord here really quick. Brian, so for people who aren't here, Brian, do you want to tell them what the $1 Million Mission is?
Yep. It's a nice little 30-minute session where we review my previous week's 150 max lineups, talk about high-level NFL DFS strategy, and now's the time to get questions in about how to approach NFL DFS, how to build lineups the right way, how to build profitable high-risk lineups, because we have plenty of time. We don't have people pressing us about, do I play this player or this player? We can actually spend time and discuss the intricacies of the sport, so it's a really nice time.
Yep, absolutely. And I love when the things go back, the streams go down. So I think we're back up now. We're good. Cool. All right, Clary subscribed, and I think he tried to cheer but didn't cheer. Thank you though. Appreciate that. We're on a hype train.
Dude, second hype train in a row. We Jack got the hype train going after he won 40K, and we went live yesterday, and people got the hype train going for Jack. So appreciate the hype train, guys.
Yeah. And as Noden points out, what are the picks?
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry, for the 200-bit cheer. I appreciate that. Although the logo is above the cheering, so we didn't see it on the screen. So, all right, let's jump into it. Went ahead and sent the alert out to Discord, put out on Twitter, all that good stuff. So let's take a look at how you did last week across the different sites and then year to date. So take a look at your DraftKings Week 5 for the 1350 in entries, 2472 in winnings for a 83% ROI. I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
It's almost like the first 4 weeks are hard, right?
I'm telling you, dude, I really should just not play the first 4 weeks. I know it's impossible to do, but really, it's like the light switch flips on once week 5 hits every single year. So no surprise to see it happen again this year.
Yeah, and real quick, Alex RR60. I love my Tuesday Night Football. Hit number 1 on the $9 GPPs in the 444, 93K. Wow.
Damn.
Nice.
How'd you get onto that lineup, Alex? I know it was a super weird construction. How did you end up making that lineup?
Nice. Cool. While we wait for him, we'll go over to FanDuel here, and on FanDuel, your winnings 2165 in entries. A little over 10K in winnings for a cool 363% ROI.
Very nice. Yeah, this I thought was going to be a lot higher. If you played FanDuel this week, you were obviously a part of the fiasco and the live scoring, the lack of live scoring. And after what I thought was the final update Monday afternoon, I was sitting in first place for 100K. And live winnings were about 105K total. And it sat there for 2 hours, and I thought I was good. And then a couple live updates hit and then dropped me from first to fourth. So probably the worst sweat of all time.
Yeah, that's got to be terrible. let's see here. Cool. Yeah, he just says Yeldon plus Tennessee. Thank you.
Yeah. What made you get on Yeldon there? That was an interesting spot. He was super low owned, so I'm curious why you played him.
Yeah. Cool. And yeah, and Clary says first ever post slate sweat. Yeah, I didn't like it.
It was the worst type of sweat of all time.
It was so funny because I was just like, man, I think I did very well. I had a lot of Kansas City, had a couple other plays, and then my money literally just went from, all right, you're breaking even to losing to really losing. I was like, all right, just stop the bleeding, guys, stop.
I know, it's like, can you guys just finalize the slate, please? Because every update, I'm losing more money.
Yeah. All right, Alex says more than 1 year without a real game. Okay.
All right, I don't know what that means, but congrats.
Yeah, definitely congrats. So let's see. So then combined, take a look at how you are doing. 15K in entries, 18.3K in winnings for a 22% year-to-date ROI.
Got into the positive a little bit earlier this year, so that's pretty sick. I think it took until like week 10 last year to get into the positive, and that was a super get into the positive after the 100K win. But yeah, I'm in a groove. I'm feeling really good. I felt really great about my lineups this week, and regardless of how it turned out, I was really happy with the process. Just, it was nice to be vindicated with a win.
Yep, cool. And then if we take a look at shout out Bismo, if he's in the chat here, not sure, did a sweet little chart for you that shows your ROI week by week in 2020. So slowly getting better each week, and then of course week 5 happens, green.
Shout out to Bismo for making this chart. Would not have allowed him to publish it if I was still in the red, to be honest. So glad I got in the green and can show this. And in all honesty, there's a very realistic chance this drops back down into the red for this upcoming week. But I do have 2 big tickets for Sunday, so that could impact how this looks. And Swagler Ken's asking, what am I playing on FanDuel? So I maxed the milli just because I want a chance at $1 million. So I'll max the $4. But then the primary GPP is the $9. What's it called? Not the rally. Oh, the rush, I think it's called. So that's what I'm playing.
Okay. Cool. Jayhawk says rumor is the Dodgers are still scoring runs.
Yeah, fading them was not the move tonight in MLB.
No, it's not. So let's how do you want to take this, Brian? Do you want to go over your FanDuel lineup real quick?
Yeah, let's take a look at the winning lineup we kind of discussed. I mean, this is going to be a lot of the key points we always hit on in FanDuel lineup construction, but yeah, we can certainly talk about it.
Cool. So I have your thing up here. You had a 1, 2, 3 by. That's just a 3-man stack, a 3x1 stack with Kansas City LV.
Yep, typical 3-1 stack, which we always recommend. I'm going to play it 99% of the time. So yeah, 3x1 stack with Mahomes, Watkins, and Kelsey, running back with Jacobs. So for this, I really thought it was really Jacobs or Waller for me for Oakland. So any Kansas City stack I did just ran it back with one of those guys. I mixed and matched Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelsey, Tyreek Hill. Just so happened that the Sammy Watkins builds were able to help me fit in a lot of the higher priced players.
Yep. And if only Sammy Watkins had just a couple more catches, right?
Yeah, well, he left in like the second quarter with the hamstring injury. That super sucked.
Yeah.
If he just stayed healthy, that'd have been great. Or honestly, I kind of got unlucky here because I didn't have a ton of Devontae Parker, and he ended up in this lineup. I didn't have Marquise Brown or Darius Slayton, who were underperforming receivers in this lineup. Just had Brandon Cooks. So a little unfortunate with the way the lineup shook out. But again, overall, it meets the criteria we always talk about: 2 high-owned running backs, high volume, game stacking, underperforming receivers, low-owned receivers. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Thank you, Lude, for the follow. Appreciate that. All right, cool. So let's hop over to DraftKings. We're going to go over to Fantasy Labs contest dashboard. Where's my Google Chrome? Yep, there we go. So I have your DraftKings lineup here for the slant, your 150 entries for the slant. Your highest owned players: Mike Davis, Brandon Cooks, Zacharias, Zeke, and David Johnson are all players that you selected over 30%. Do you want to talk to me about those?
Yeah, so Mike Davis was one of the best plays at running back. So was Zeke, Brandon Cooks, underperforming receiver, was way too cheap, and I just wanted as much of him as I could get. 40% I thought was a good amount, so I got him in as much as I could. David Johnson I actually hated. but he was like the only mid-price running back I really liked, or like liked even at all, which is why he ended up where he was. Based on all my builds, I needed some sort of running back in that range, and David Johnson was the guy that fit. I didn't really like anyone else. I could have split that exposure to like, I don't know, Antonio Gibson per se, but I didn't like him as much as David Johnson, so I just rode with David Johnson, and he did okay. He did fine, but that was the only part of my exposures I didn't really like.
Okay, nice, cool. Jayhawk says, "I want your guys' take. Do you think you need to have a running back at the flex spot on FanDuel?"
In low risk contests, 100%. High risk contests, not necessarily. You want to try to get there, just because of the scoring system. It's a really good idea to try to fit a running back there, but just coincidentally, all of my big FanDuel wins have been with a receiver in flex. So we had CeeDee Lamb here, we had Julio Jones in the WFFC, and then we had Preston Williams in the 100K. So, that I wouldn't put any stock into that. Again, if you have the option, try to fit into a running back. You really want 3 high volume guys, but again, on the weeks where there are tons of underperforming receivers, no reason not to get one of those guys in there instead.
Yep. Wig says, so in theory, the same type of build on DraftKings should work, right?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Cool. And then Notum says, all the Sharks played DJ.
I mean, I get it based on his price, but I mean, he still sucks. So it is what it is.
Yep. Cool. So let's take a look at some of the guys that you had under leverage. If I can filter this right. So Edwards-Helaire, which I thought was pretty interesting, considering you did a Kansas City stack. I guess you wanted to just ignore him or have under leverage on him.
Yeah, I really only used him in stacks. I had him a little bit in other lineups, but mostly for me, I wanted the correlation of the stacks. I liked him, but not. I thought Zeke and Mike Davis were the best plays by far, and I wanted to get them as many lineups as I could that weren't stacks.
Yeah. And what shows that I actually think is wild is so CEH, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce. You were all had de-leverage, I guess it would be negative leverage on all of those guys, albeit just a little bit on some. But I find that interesting that even though you game stacked that, you still had less leverage.
Yeah, so what it really comes down to is kind of, and I had a lot of decisions to make here. I didn't really like those guys outside of game stacks. Like, they didn't pop, they weren't underperforming receivers, so I didn't want to get a ton of them, but I wanted to at least take advantage of the game environment. If they went off, 1 or 2 of them are going to go off with Mahomes. Amari Cooper was the really interesting one. Only had him in 5% of my lineups, where the field had him at 10%. I honestly thought he would be a lot more. But I knew that he would be heavily owned in Dallas stacks, and I actually excluded him from my Dallas stacks and only used him in lineups where I had X amount of low-owned players. I wanted him, if I used Amari, to actually be in a lineup that would be unique and not in Dallas game stacks, which actually turned out pretty well.
Okay, cool. Random Rule says, I thought J-Rob would have been lower owned.
Yeah, what did James Robinson end up his ownership on DraftKings or FanDuel?
Let's see here. If I can figure out how to
I mean, his CMC game against the Dolphins on national TV, like, everyone saw his role. So I'm not too surprised. He was still a little bit underpriced, so I'm not very surprised at how high he got up there.
17%.
Yeah, I think that was fair. Yeah, I mean, he's got a ridiculous role, especially after the offensive coordinator said they want to get him more touches in the second half. Like, I think that just solidified his ownership.
Yeah. So let's see here. I didn't know. J Air Z says Fuller or AJ Brown this week.
Yeah, check back in for our Saturday show. This is just reviewing week 5 and talking high level strategy. I admittedly haven't even looked at the slate for Sunday yet, so I couldn't give you an informed answer.
Cool. All right, so talking about game stacks, you did the Kansas City, Las Vegas. What was the other game stacks that you did?
Yeah, so I actually did 2 full game stacks and then 1 side of 2 other games. So I didn't think the Giants would be enough to get there by themselves in a full stack. So I only stacked Dallas and just ran it back with Slayton and Ingram. And then I didn't like a 3-man Vegas stack, so I just did 3-man Kansas City stacks and ran it back with Jacobs and Waller, like I said. And then I stacked Carolina, Atlanta, and I stacked Houston, Jacksonville.
Cool. Brian Wolf says, "What's up, guys?" What's up, Brian?
What's up, man?
Brandon Moore says, I did Chiefs and Steelers stacks the most. I like Sanders as the run back.
Dude, I hoped you stacked Claypool with them. That would be the most galaxy brain move.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous game. I can't imagine, even if you stacked that game, I can't imagine you included Claypool too often. Not you specifically, Random Rules, but like just anyone in general.
Yeah. And he says, I didn't have nearly enough Claypool.
Yeah, we needed 100% Claypool.
Yes. Ken says, is AJ Green your favorite player?
By far my favorite player. Definitely my favorite. It's spelled Favourit, Canadians.
Yeah. So, one question I have for you, Brian, is you pick a lot of defenses, or maybe we don't know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defenses. Do you just pick the top X amount from the model, and do you set exposures, or do you kind of just let DFS Magic do whatever you want it to do?
Well, fortunately, DFS Magic does try to evenly distribute your defenses. It doesn't go like 90% one defense generally. What I'll do is I'll look at the top, let's just say 10 defenses in the model, and kind of see where the tiers are and where the next drop in OF index is. And then if there's a defense that's like, let's say the top 2 defenses, I'm just throwing out random numbers here. Top 2 defenses are 4,500. And then there's a 3,700, 3,500, 3,300. And then like 6th or 7th, there's another $4,500 defense. I'll probably just exclude them and just get most of my expensive defense exposure to those top 2 defenses, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a feel each week, looking where the tiers are, eliminating some of the lower top 10s that are expensive. So yeah, most of the time it'll end up between 5 and 10 defenses. I think on FanDuel I only have 5 this week.
Okay. Cool. Claire says, I played Fulgham and Claypool in a lineup with them a home stack, and then I woke up.
Yeah. What a crazy week. Both those guys, top 2 receivers on the slate. Really incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to talk about your lineups? I guess underperforming receivers, how much did you have exposure to them, or anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, so the big ones here on DraftKings, so obviously it was Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, Darius Slayton, Calvin Ridley. If I'm not mistaken, I tried to get at least 20% exposure to each of those guys. Just looking here.
Looks like you did.
Yeah, Slayton, Ridley, Marquise. Yeah, Marquise was the one that like his pricing was kind of weird with my build, so I couldn't get as much as I wanted to. But I really wanted a lot of Ridley in and outside of game stacks. Wanted a ton of Slayton inside and outside of game stacks. And then Cooks was so goddamn cheap, I wanted him as much as I could. The other thing to talk about here was the cheap receivers. Pretty much every time I build on DraftKings, I need some sort of cheap receiver. This week's going to be fucking great for it because there's like 3 or 4 receivers that are on the underperforming list that are like min price. It's going to be great. Other weeks it's kind of tough. So like here, I didn't want a ton of like Chris Hogan and as much as we like the tax collector, I didn't want a ton of him. So it was kind of tough. I just got like 4 or 5 3K guys and spread like 5 to 10% each, and just hope that one of them panned out.
Yeah. Great question here from Ken. Says, is there anything you're surprised by or didn't expect from the field this year, whether it be leverage, ownership, sharp plays?
Not particularly. Everything's been pretty much in line. No true shockers. There's been a couple of shockers in Showdown, but even then the field has stayed relatively dumb, I'll say. And then I think even if you look here, Mike, Moose, just look at like who was the highest on quarterback on the slate? I think it was Dak, right?
Did you just call me Mike, by the way?
It came out as Mike. I wasn't trying to address you. I was trying to think of a player's name and it came out. But if you're listening to this on video, it probably sounded like I called you Mike, which I haven't called you that in
probably
maybe my entire life.
Yeah. All right. According in your player pool, it looks like the most popular running quarterback was Patrick Mahomes at 15%.
All right, so fortunately you can look at the Stack Seeker tool here on Fantasy Labs. So click the Stack Seeker and do Mahomes and let's say Tyreek Hill. This shows that even then, like, people aren't optimally stacking that much.
Okay. 7.2% of entries.
And then Mahomes is what, 15% or 16% or something?
Like that, yeah.
So only half stack them together. And what about Kelsey and Mahomes? 7% is actually higher than I thought, because most of the time this has been like the 3-4% range. So that was pretty high.
Let's see here. So 6.5%.
So this is pretty high. I will admit this is higher than I expected.
This is also the slant, which is a little bit sharper field too.
That's true too. That's definitely true.
Do you want to see what this is like over on the Millie Maker?
Yeah, we can look at the Millie and see what that looks like. But yeah, just real quick, like Clary says, well, we can come back to this, but do Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill and see how many triple stacks.
Cool. Yeah. So only 5% with Mahomes and Kelsey, and if you include in Tyreek Hill, 2%.
Yeah, so there you go. 2% of the field stacking a triple stack with Kansas City. So when you think like how popular is this lineup, really only 2% of the field is doing the most popular triple stack.
Yeah.
Which goes to show that it's probably still not being played enough by the field, which means we still have an edge in our game stacks.
Makes sense to me. Cool. All right. Yeah, I think that kind of. Clary says it's the field stacking more optimally this year. I think we kind of answered that. Random rules. Are you looking at cheap wide receivers because they offer upside and also savings to pay up elsewhere versus say 3 mid or high range wide receivers?
Yeah, I don't like. I'm not trying to look at it that way or box myself in. I need 3 cheap receivers. This is the way that some of the stacks have been playing out as far as price, and generally I'm looking to pay up at running back most of the time because that's where most of the volume is, and as a result, you end up needing some cheap receivers. So I wouldn't say it's something I try to do. It's just the way the constructions end up working out most of the time.
Cool, definitely. I love the guy who did a 4-man stack with Edwards-Helaire as well. That's got to be rough.
Damn, not a great time.
No. Cool. Let's see. Hova says, "Let's go." Had me worried this week. Had me thinking you guys weren't going to do this stream.
Yeah, COVID got the schedules all messed up, so we're here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And Clay says, "Brian, to that point, would you try to avoid that triple stack because they are also expensive?"
Yeah, there's definitely reason to do that, and that's kind of why I removed Amari Cooper. Popularity plus, at least I thought he was going to be popular. Only 10% was kind of surprising. But yeah, if there's not any cheap high volume running backs or cheap receivers that you like, you could certainly eliminate that stack. And one, that gets you a really unique game stack, and two, allows you to spend up at other positions. So I understand that, and that's definitely a strategy you could use. Depends on the rest of your player pool for the week.
Cool. Let's see. Alex says, basically, do you use more wide receivers in the flex spot?
This year, there just haven't been that many running backs I want to play on a given week. Generally, I'm trying to get running backs in there. DraftKings, it's a little bit more wide receiver heavy because of the scoring. I don't go in necessarily saying I need this position in my flex spot, if that makes sense.
Cool. Perfect. All right, so let's jump into some of the other things. And again, great questions. Love these type of questions, these high-level questions. If you have any more, go ahead and ask. We'll be here for 5-10 or so minutes. Let's take a look at some duplicate lineups. Always love to see those. Like, for example, the top one in terms of users is 147 users did this lineup.
That's great. Speaking of duplicate lineups, right? So it was the Saints game the other night. Monday night, was it? So, the slate locks, I'm running my duplicates, and I see that I have I had really good uniques, really good duplicate numbers. I was very happy with it, and I was looking at my most duplicated lineups and had a random lineup that was duplicated like 97 times, which is pretty rare for me. Mm-hmm. If I get something like that, normally it's I messed up or something weird happens, or I misread the field. I don't know. It was 97. It was like a Jared Cook captain line or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was like a ton of money left over. It was a relatively unique captain. I was like, how the hell did this happen? Turns out some guy entered the same lineup 88 times in the showdown contest. So I really only duplicated it with 11 other people, but some guy entered it 88 times, which made the duplicates that much higher.
Oof, that's fun. Yeah, and Alex follows up says, normally do you use running backs?
I mean, I would try to. If there's high-owned, high-volume running backs, yeah, I'll try to get as many as I can. But it also depends on underperforming receivers, too. If we have a bunch like we do this week, it's going to be tough to get those guys in. So it's slate to slate dependent, depends on the player pool.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest answer you said there. Is just, it's so slate dependent. You can't just say, yeah, I use running backs in the flex or wide receivers in the flex. It really all depends on high level.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Wig says, if running a 3-1 game stack, is it more optimal to have one running back or 3-1 with no running back?
Yeah, I don't think you have to jam in a running back. It depends on the story you're telling. It depends on if that running back can catch passes. So like, just trying to think here of some examples. So last week, Houston. Really, there's only like two options you're going to pick on the Jacksonville side if you're running them back. James Robinson, because apparently he's Christian McCaffrey as far as his usage, and DJ Chark, who was getting the most volume on Jacksonville side at the time. And then the Houston side, Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller were getting almost all the targets in the passing game, and then DJ hopefully out of the backfield. So like you could use Robinson and DJ in those stacks. The Dallas game you could use Ezekiel Elliott because he's using the passing game. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just really if it makes sense and do those running backs catch passes.
Mm-hmm. Cool. What's up, Jake? It says, yo, finally caught one of these recaps live. What's the maximum of underperforming wide receivers you would put in a lineup?
4. if they make sense and it fits. Really, the way that would happen is if. Actually, it happened in the WFFC, my winning lineup. So it was a game stack with two guys. It was Tyler Lockett versus Curtis Samuel, and then the tight end and the receiver were against each other. Darren Waller was underperforming, and Chris Conley was underperforming the same game. So you can get 4, potentially 5 if a tight end's on the list. So it'd have to be a game stack. But again, yeah, I mean, as many as you want. Like, these guys are likely going to blow up or have the highest chance of blowing up. So get as many as you can. And to Sankey's point, he just asked how to best use underperforming receivers in 20 max exposure. Like, outside of your game stacks, they should be your highest exposed wide receivers.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, I know you and I were talking about it, and it's like at least try and get 10 percentage, 20 leverage on all the underperforming wide receivers.
Yeah, if you can. Like, we got guys this week that are like really good. So because Ken asked us to sneak peek some underperforming receivers. So let's find a name here. So I have to pull up the schedule actually. Like I said, I haven't literally looked at anything in NFL this week. So let's see here. Because Chris was talking about a game stack this week that featured some. That would require me to know who plays each other, though.
Random rules guess is it Ty?
Ty is not on the list, surprisingly. At least on our list. He's not on our list. Baltimore and Philadelphia is a random example. So John Hightower, who's like kind of a thin, underperforming receiver, and it'll depend on who else is back for them. But he's facing Marquise Brown. They're both on the list. That could be a good game stack, or even if you just use those two in your lineup, adds extra upside. A lot of same names from last week. Calvin Ridley, Darius Slayton, Marquise Brown, still underperforming. I know they met expectations last week, but they didn't exceed them. So they're still waiting on some blow-up games.
Yeah. Can't say John Hightower. I'm not playing John fucking Hightower.
Moose, do you know the answer? How many air yards John Hightower had last week?
I would have to look it up. I don't know.
If you had to put a number, John Hightower, I imagine you don't even know who that is until this week. How many air yards do you think he had last week?
I was going to say 70.
He had 204 air yards last week. Yes, John Hightower, the name nobody knows, had 204 air yards last week. And that was in addition to Travis Fulgham going off for like 150 yards in that game.
Yeah.
So again, we'll see if Djax is back. We'll see if Alshon's back. But if they're not, Hightower is literally minimum price and is going to get some deep balls.
Clary was actually really close with 214.
Clary cheated.
And Jake, yeah, you're right. It was definitely more than AJ Green.
Yeah, AJ Green's off the list, thank God.
Yeah.
He's actually hurt too, so he's forever off the list.
Dono says, how is Ridley underperforming? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So if we look, actually I'm gonna pull it up on my end. So we look at the last 3 weeks of data here, just to give you a little bit of insight as to how this works. So if we look 3 weeks ago, week 3, he was expected to score 32 fantasy points. He only scored 16 in quotes. He had 249 air yards on 13 targets, hauled in 5 for 110. 5 for 110 is a good game, but he should have scored 1 billion points. Then if we go to week 4, 98 air yards on 5 targets, expected to score around 13 fantasy points, goose egged on Monday night. And then if we go to last week, 10 targets, 132 air yards, expected to score 19 points. He scored about 21. But if you add all this up, he's underperforming by about 25 fantasy points over the last 3 weeks. Like, this dude has a 40-point game potential. So we're playing for that blow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, so let's. It's almost getting here towards the end, so let's jump through the last couple of things we talked through. Real quick, I do want to take a look. Let's take a look at the leader, Jay Duke. Wow, got 2 entries. Love to see it. But like for example, Appersaw 22. This person ended in 3rd. Let's take a look at his things really quick.
He had 150. I mean, you can't. Honestly, if you played Claypool and you entered 1 or 2 lineups, you're either like from the future, or you just made some crazy lineups, and that's what I think that's what that dude did.
Yeah, I mean, if you got 2 entries in the Millie Maker, you might as well just say go crazy, right?
Yeah, clearly he went crazy and played fucking Claypool. Incredible.
Yeah, so I'm just sorting by Appersaw's. Yeah, I hope I'm saying that right. By his leverage, Houston defense 50% leverage, Zeke 40, Brandon Cooks 38, Mike Davis 30, Zach 25, Kelsey 25. So a lot of.
How did I not win the Millie when he has basically the same player pool and leverage I did?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's definitely
Pretty
crazy.
crazy.
I just want to see how many quarterbacks he played. 1, 2, Kyle Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones. So a lot more quarterbacks.
Yeah, but he also played the same guys. He
Yeah.
must have used my cheat sheet. I don't know what he must be an off-Capi subscriber because he had like all the same player pools I did. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken says, is it secret sauce or how are you guys calculating expected fantasy points?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit secret sauce action. You could probably figure it out, but it's about air yards, targets, opportunities, where the targets are on the field, percentage of teams, targets, and air yards. I wouldn't say it's a complex formula, but it's a little secretive.
Jake
You can
says,
reverse engineer it if you wanted to.
Jake says, yo, I cut Claypool in season long 30 minutes before lock after drafting him and hanging on for weeks. That's anti-Nostradamus.
Well, let us know who you're going to cut this week, Jake, so we know to play him.
Yes. And the last thing we'll look at is some position usage. So we had a lot of talk about flex. 46.5% of the entries used a running back, 41% used a wide receiver, and 12% used a tight end.
Wow, 12%. 12%. I imagine this might have had something to do with Waller and Kelsey. Can you go back to the stack seeker and see how many teams had Waller plus Kelsey?
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like this accounted for a ton of the double flex. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my guess here.
I think I got everyone else. Did I check off? I don't know why Brian Hill got randomly selected in that one thing, but let's see. I just want to make sure I have everyone unchecked. Yeah, cool. All right, so you said Kelsey and Waller.
Yeah, let's see.
1% of entries.
All right, so 11% just lit money on fire, I guess. I felt like this was the only double tight end stack that was viable. Very rarely will we ever recommend it. We did say this was a realistic chance this week because Waller is basically a receiver, so is Kelsey.
Yeah.
So it's not really 2 tight ends. So yeah, but again, only 1% is crazy.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I would love to see the other 2 tight end lineups and see which.
Yeah, what is which we like query? What is the highest percentage of 2 tight ends?
Like I'm just gonna see who has the highest player pool. Probably. All right, so Slappo, 106 players on 61 entries. I just want to see how many tight ends.
Dude played everybody.
He used a lot of tight ends. So it looks like Waller, Kittle was 17%. Ebron 11.5%. Kelsey 12%.
How many people play like Kittle and Kelsey?
Let's see.
If that's more than Kelsey and Waller, that's just insane.
You say
Ingram was too. So let's check Ingram.
All right, so Kittle and Kelsey was basically 1%.
Do I don't know, Ingram and Kelsey or Ingram and Schultz maybe because they played each other. Or Ingram and Kittle. I don't know, some combination
All right,
of
Ingram and Kittle, 0.5%. Interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
People just randomly playing tight ends.
I'm
together.
pretty sure.
But
That's what
yeah, I mean, they're just clearly not making a setting because it's most of the time it's not the optimal approach.
yeah. I want to see if any of the duplicated lineups had a tight end in it. No, none of the big ones had them. It looks
What was
like.
the most duplicated lineup, by the way? Lamar.
Lamar, CEH, Mike Davis, Robbie Anderson, Slayton, Zach, Ingram, Zeke, and Houston defense.
See, like you could tell this is just like a randomly generated lineup, like an optimizer lineup without any settings. Because why would you play Mike Davis and Robbie against the tax collector and not use Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback?
Yeah,
That just doesn't make sense.
yeah, definitely. And we like to look at the position usage across the different contests. So this $20 entry is where the 12% of entries use tight end. We hop it up to the $9 slant, 10%. A little bit sharper field. The 333 was 9%, and the luxury box 3,000, 6.5%, which is still pretty high for the luxury box.
Yeah, normally it's like 3 or 4%, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's super high.
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here. Claire says I actually did that with a 3-2 stack. I had Robbie and Davis coming back my Matt Ryan stacks. R.I.P. Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan played so poorly. Yeah, that was a shitty game. I actually like that because I imagine you had some cheaper options with Matt Ryan, which is a way to get 3x2 stacks in. Really, one of those players has to be kind of cheap, and you could have done that with Russell Gage or the tax collector.
True. So, all right, guys. So, if you have any last questions, get them in. Brian, is there anything else you want to cover on the last couple minutes we have here?
No, I got 2 entries into the $2,000 GPP on FanDuel, 1-2 satellites into it. So it's 1,200 person, 1 million to first on Sunday on FanDuel. So I'll be playing for that. Hopefully we'll have a nice little spike in the chart for Tuesday's $1 million mission.
Cool. Awesome. Ken says, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Mike. Every time I hear Mike, it reminds me of when I made a tweet. Remember, my Twitter account, CFB Moose, has nothing to do with Mike, Michael, anything like that. And I said, wow, thanks. When I flew to Vegas last time, I said, yo, Southwest, you got me here an hour early. Thanks. And they go, thanks. No problem, Mike, which is what my Southwest statement is. And I was like, how sway?
How did it? Because your Twitter says literally nothing. It doesn't say Mike, Michael, anything at all about it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, all right, we're going to cross-reference your Twitter with your Southwest account and say, oh, thanks, Mike.
Yeah. All right, last question before we get out of here. Jay Markham says, if you play a chalky stack, do you force less to own fillers?
I don't think you have to. Like, by nature, doing 3x1 stacks are pretty rare. We saw the Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey triple stack was only 2% owned.
Mm-hmm.
Moose, can you add in a Raider player just really quickly before we get out of here?
All right.
Just do Jacobs, I guess. Do Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, Jacobs, which is what my winning lineup was.
You said Mahomes, Kelsey, and who else?
Hill, Jacobs.
Yeah, and Hill, Tyreek Hill. So of those, 0.42%, only 1,000 lineups had it.
Yeah, so only 1,000 lineups out of 236,000 lineups had that combo. So if you play, you're not going to overlap with that. Like, you 3x1 stack, the most popular 3x1 stack, only 0.4% of the field has it. Like, that alone should tell you that if you're 3x1 stacking, you really don't have to worry about the popularity of the rest of your lineup.
Yeah, and I mean, even looking here, let's go by the most high-owned defense, like Pittsburgh or something. If you add any, that's only 77 lineups.
Right.
Lineups like.
You still got 4 other spots to fill.
Yeah, even with Baltimore too, 0.0, only 46 people use it. So you had a lot. If you do that, you definitely have a chance to get unique regardless. Even if you had like a 90% player, you're still going to be unique.
Yeah, I think I talked about this on my first Takecast appearance. They asked about ownership, and I was like, it's really just about how you make your lineup for NFL. Other sports, single game is definitely different, but for classic NFL, you don't have to worry about ownership that much. You 3x1 stack, you play high volume running backs, play underperforming receivers, and like no one's going to do that. So
cool. I just realized this entire time I spelled Discord wrong in the thing. Just rip. And the
Discord.
Nice. All right, cool. So that'll do it. So until Saturday, where we have our NFL stream, Moose and Brian from Occupy Fantasy. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.